All right, let's talk about the 77 Bronco again. Now, I made a video a while back of a bunch of work that got done to it, but I wanted to go more in depth today about the carburetor rebuild. I know a lot of people don't rebuild these things anymore, they just replace them. So I wanted to show you how to rebuild it just in case you wanted to. So obviously, we're gonna need to start off with taking this thing apart. Now, you really want to be careful with all these tiny little screws and C-clips and linkages and everything. It helps to have a little magnet tray to hold on to all this stuff because these tiny things do grow legs and run away. It's almost impossible to order new ones, so make sure you keep track of these. Now, just to give y'all a little bit of behind the scenes, whenever somebody contacts me about an old car like this that they want to get up and going again, I come out about a month in advance to take a look at it and see what on the car works and what on the car doesn't work, and what needs to be replaced and what needs to be rebuilt and all that kind of good stuff. And sometimes I'm able to see everything all in one shot, and sometimes it's a process of, okay, let's fix these three things and then reassess and see what needs to be replaced after that, and then fix those three things and then reassess. So sometimes it's kind of a give and take. But on my first trip out to look at this truck, I actually was able to get the engine running. The only reason that I'm rebuilding this carburetor is just leaking gas all over the engine, which of course is horrible for fuel economy, but also it's a safety hazard, and you really don't want this thing catching on fire. This little plastic block right here is called the fuel float. It does exactly what it sounds like. Whenever there's enough fuel in the carburetor, it floats up and shuts a valve off. Once that valve is closed, any excess fuel gets sent back to the gas tank. So if there's any dirt or contamination in the valve, or if the float doesn't work properly, it'll leak fuel all over the place. This thing really isn't all that dirty, so a spray can will do just fine. Remember to wear some safety glasses when you're working with this stuff. I could only find these orange ones in my toolbox, so I'm out here looking like Zoolander. It cleans everything really well, and your eyeballs really don't like to be that clean. It hurts a lot. So make sure and wear some safety glasses. You can get in here with a toothbrush or a toothpick or maybe some napkins or something and start wiping everything down, but the pressure out of this can is really doing all the cleaning I need it to do. You can see most of this dirt and grime is cleaning right off of here. You can look at the water underneath it and tell it's all washing away. And before you put everything back together, you want to test this fuel float. Make sure there's no leaks or anything in it. If you submerge it under water and you see air bubbles coming out, that means it can fill up with fluid, which will obviously make it not float, and there's no point in having a fuel float if it can't float. Luckily, this one's fine. If it was bubbling or something like that, we'd have to order a new one and wait a couple of days for it to come in and everything. But we got lucky on this one. All right, here's a fun little tidbit for you. This part right here is called a primer pump. And if you've ever driven an old vehicle with a carburetor on it, you know that before you start the engine, especially if it's cold outside, you have to pump the gas a couple of times before you turn the key over in order for the engine to start. Well, whenever you pump the gas, it actuates this pump and squirts a little bit of fuel down into the carburetor so that it helps it start when the engine is cold. This does the exact same thing as like a lawnmower or a weed eater, where you have a little primer bulb on the side and you have to push that primer bulb 5 or 10 times and then pull the cord and everything. That's what this does. This is basically that primer bulb right here. Now, there's a lot of math and physics and everything that go into how these carburetors work, and how the airflow affects the fuel, and how the air temperature affects the fuel, and how it reacts in the combustion chamber to make your engine run better or worse. But I think it was Pythagoras that said cold engines need more gas to start. I think that sounds like something he would say. I'm not a historian though, so don't quote me on that. Here's that fuel float again. There's a couple little clips and everything to hold this thing in place, so we gotta be real careful when we're putting it back in, and then lift it up and drop it a couple times, make sure it's moving freely. Okay, you gotta be careful when you're putting these gaskets back in. Sometimes these carburetor kits are made to fit multiple different styles of carburetors. So some of these gaskets won't fit on your carburetor, and some of them will fit, but they'll have the holes in the wrong place, or you'll have them upside down or something like that, and it will ruin the way that your carburetor works. So a good rule of thumb is to take pictures, or in this case, I took a video I could reference, to make sure that you have these gaskets lined up to where the fuel can pass through and in all the right places, and it'll run properly. If not, you'll have your car will be running real funky, and it really just won't work well. And just like that, we got everything back together, so we can go ahead and take this thing for a test drive. And look at that, driving like it's brand new. If you want to see more information on this Bronco and what we did, you can check out my page. There's more videos on this. If you like this information, go ahead and like and comment and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. If you don't like it, let me know in the comments. And I really rely on you guys to tell me what you do and don't like, and I kind of base my content based on that. So thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.